The controversy surrounding VAR has once again intensified, with Manchester United supporters demanding clarity and accountability following contentious decisions in the fixtures against Fulham and West Ham. Frustration is building among the fan base, who believe that recent video assistant referee interventions have cost their team valuable points at critical stages of the season. What was originally introduced as a technological solution to reduce human error is now, in the eyes of many United fans, becoming a source of confusion and dissatisfaction. When VAR was implemented in the Premier League, it was presented as a step toward greater fairness and accuracy. The fundamental objective seemed straightforward: correct clear and obvious mistakes, assist referees in complex moments, and ensure that match-defining calls were as accurate as possible. Supporters were assured that the system would enhance the integrity of the game. Yet, as the season progresses, Manchester United followers are questioning whether those promises are being consistently fulfilled. The Fulham controversy. The tension first escalated during the match against Fulham. It was a competitive encounter, tightly contested and tactically balanced. In a decisive moment of the game, United appeared to execute a legitimate attacking sequence that could have significantly influenced the outcome. However, the move was halted, following a prolonged VAR review. Players stood waiting. Coaches watched the pitchside monitors anxiously. Fans inside the stadium shifted between anticipation and disbelief. Minutes passed as officials analyzed footage from multiple angles. When the verdict was finally delivered, it went against Manchester United. The frustration did not stem solely from the decision itself, but from the perception that the evidence shown failed to conclusively justify overturning the referee's initial call. Supporters argued that if VAR is intended to intervene only in instances of clear and obvious error, then marginal interpretations should not result in reversals. The extended delay also disrupted the rhythm of the match. Momentum is a critical component of football, and when play is paused for lengthy reviews, the intensity and emotional flow can be altered dramatically. As soon as the final whistle blew, social media platforms were flooded with reactions. Clips were replayed repeatedly. Screenshots were dissected, and comparisons were drawn with similar incidents involving other clubs. Many questioned why analogous situations elsewhere in the league had not received the same degree of scrutiny. The issue of consistency resurfaced immediately, a concern that has followed VAR since its introduction. For Manchester United supporters, the Fulham decision symbolized a broader problem. Was the standard for intervention applied equally across all matches, or was their team once again subjected to subjective interpretation in moments that could determine results? West Ham and the disallowed goal. If the Fulham incident caused irritation, the subsequent match against West Ham intensified the sense of injustice. The moment in question centered around Casemiro, a player known for his aerial strength and decisive presence in high-pressure situations. During a promising attacking move, he surged forward, met a cross with authority, and headed the ball into the net. The celebration was immediate and euphoric. Teammates rushed toward him. The crowd erupted in unrestrained joy. For a brief moment, it felt like a pivotal breakthrough in the match. Then came the familiar interruption. The referee signaled for a VAR review. The stadium atmosphere shifted instantly. Cheers turned into anxious murmurs. Supporters watched the big screen, waiting for clarity. The review process seemed to stretch endlessly. Finally, the announcement arrived: the goal would not stand. The justification was a marginal offside during the build-up phase. Replays displayed an incredibly fine margin, a situation requiring digital lines and precise measurements. For many, it did not appear to represent a blatant error. Instead, it looked like one of those razor-thin calls where interpretation and technology intersect uncomfortably. Critics argued that such microscopic evaluations risk stripping the sport of its organic spontaneity. Football has traditionally been defined by its fluidity and emotional immediacy. When goals are celebrated and then withdrawn minutes later due to millimeter judgments, the emotional experience changes dramatically. For Manchester United fans, it felt like a recurring narrative. Another major moment reversed, another celebration cut short, another decision perceived as unfavorable. Calls for greater transparency. The aftermath of these incidents has prompted growing calls from United supporters for increased transparency in VAR communication. If the system is to remain central to modern football, many believe it must evolve in the way decisions are explained. One major grievance is the limited real-time explanation provided during reviews. While referees occasionally announce final decisions, detailed reasoning is rarely communicated to fans in the stadium or to viewers at home. Questions linger. Where exactly was the offside line drawn? How much margin was involved? Was there room for interpretative discretion? Some football leagues around the world have experimented with more open communication, allowing referees to verbally explain decisions to the audience. Manchester United supporters argue that similar transparency could help rebuild trust. Understanding the rationale behind contentious calls might not eliminate disagreement, but it could reduce suspicion and confusion. Trust in officiating systems depends not only on accuracy but also on perceived fairness. When supporters feel excluded from the decision-making process, frustration naturally intensifies. Psychological impact on players. Beyond fan sentiment, there is concern regarding the psychological consequences for players. Scoring a goal is an emotionally charged experience. The surge of adrenaline, the shared celebration, and the sense of achievement all contribute to a team's momentum. When such moments are erased after extended reviews, the impact can be significant. Casemiro's disallowed header was not merely a statistical alteration on the scoreboard. It represented a shift in potential momentum. Goals influence tactical adjustments, defensive strategies, and player confidence. When players repeatedly experience celebrations that are later nullified, hesitation can creep into their decision-making. Attackers may second-guess their positioning. Midfielders might hesitate in forward passes. Even defenders could adjust their lines with excessive caution. The ripple effect of VAR extends beyond the moment itself and into the psychological fabric of the match. Managers also face complex tactical considerations. Should teams alter attacking movements to minimize the risk of marginal offsides? Should defensive units rely more heavily on the technological safety net? The modern game is increasingly shaped by these strategic questions. The wider debate surrounding VAR. The incidents involving Manchester United are part of a broader conversation unfolding across English football. Since its introduction, VAR has remained one of the sport's most divisive elements. While it has corrected undeniable mistakes, it has also generated fresh controversies. The central criticism revolves around the application of the clear and obvious error principle. In some matches, referees appear reluctant to overturn on-field decisions despite inconclusive evidence. In others, even marginal discrepancies prompt intervention. The perceived inconsistency fuels skepticism. Supporters of VAR emphasize its contribution to fairness. They argue that without technological assistance, significant errors could go unchecked, potentially altering title races and relegation battles. From this perspective, marginal offside calls are simply accurate applications of the rules. Opponents counter that excessive precision undermines the essence of football. The sport has historically accommodated human error as part of its unpredictability. Over-analysis, they argue, risks diminishing emotional spontaneity and disrupting match flow. Matches like those involving Manchester United serve as focal points for both arguments. Each controversial decision reignites the debate, highlighting the ongoing tension between technological precision and traditional experience. Tactical perspective under Carrick. From a purely tactical standpoint, there were encouraging signs in Manchester United's performances. Under Carrick's guidance, the team has displayed improved positional organization and ball retention. Transitional awareness has become more structured, reflecting thoughtful coaching progression. However, converting territorial dominance into decisive outcomes remains an area requiring refinement. Elite teams must find ways to manage adversity, whether stemming from tactical challenges or contentious officiating decisions. Allowing external disruptions to dictate match outcomes can hinder long-term development. Carrick's response to the controversy has drawn attention. Known for his composed demeanor and analytical approach, he must navigate a delicate balance. Expressing frustration publicly carries potential consequences, yet ignoring player morale would be equally problematic. Modern managers operate within complex media environments. Public criticism of refereeing decisions can attract scrutiny and potential disciplinary measures. As a result, many choose to focus on internal performance metrics rather than external grievances. Carrick is likely to emphasize continuous improvement, resilience, and concentration. The objective remains clear. Ensure that performance standards remain high regardless of officiating outcomes. Emotional resonance among supporters. For supporters, football is deeply emotional. Decisions perceived as unjust evoke strong reactions. The disallowed goal against West Ham became a rallying point across social platforms, sports broadcasts, and fan discussions. It demonstrated how technology, interpretation, and emotion intersect in the modern era. The immediate aftermath of controversial moments often shapes narrative more powerfully than the final scoreline. In this case, the 1-1 draw on 10 February 2026 will be remembered as much for its disputed decisions as for its statistical outcome. Football's evolution continues to challenge traditional perceptions. Technology has undoubtedly enhanced accuracy in numerous situations, yet its integration remains imperfect. Balancing precision with spectacle is one of the sport's defining challenges. Looking ahead, as Manchester United progresses through the season, the implications of these matches will extend beyond isolated incidents. Tactical development under Carrick, squad resilience, and adaptation to technological scrutiny will all influence future performances. Matches influenced by marginal decisions often linger in collective memory. They shape narratives, fuel debates, and reinforce perception. Whether Casemiro's disallowed strike is viewed as a correct interpretation of the laws or an overly strict application, it encapsulates the thin line separating triumph from frustration. In a game decided by inches, interpretations carry enormous weight. The controversy surrounding these fixtures reflects the broader complexity of modern football, a sport striving to harmonize technological advancement with emotional authenticity. Ultimately, the events against Fulham and West Ham underscore an enduring reality. Football remains a game of fine margins. Between celebration and disappointment, between justice and controversy, the line is remarkably narrow. Manchester United supporters may continue to demand answers, but the broader debate about VAR's role in shaping the sport is far from settled. As the season unfolds, each decision will be scrutinized, each intervention will be debated, and the conversation surrounding technology as plays in football will persist, evolving alongside the game itself.